Peace, tribe, family. Happy Tuesday, wherever you are. Hope that it feels comfortable for you. Here in the lovely North Carolina, it is, I don't even know what the temperature is, but it's actually finally cold. So I'm really feeling those wintry season vibes. And I am Mama Nika. If you are new to the Tribe Learning Co op, I'm one of the co founders, and I'm joined by another Mama Kaya and her lovely seed, baby Jeremy. And today we're going to be checking in with you all, having I hope, a really robust conversation just about this season that we find ourselves in, and specifically the winter, the holiday season, the new year. Um, what else do people say around this time? Hmm. I don't know, but basically, I'm talking about this span from like the so-called Thanksgiving holiday all the way into the new year, and just the energy that it has. And we thought it would be a good time to just kind of check in about what we actually are doing, because we know commercially what is happening, but I'm just really curious about what we're actually doing and how we're connecting and relating. So, hence the name, what's the reason for the season? So, we can check in a little bit about what the reasons are for us existing and practicing whatever rituals we do in this season, as well as talking a little bit about our intentions for practices and rituals throughout the rest of the season, into the new calendar year. So we can get right into it. I think as people kind of join in the live, like, we'll take some pause to look to see if there are comments. We really do want to hear from you. So even if you are watching this after the live, I would encourage you to just check in with us and let us know how this conversation lands for you, in your family, in your body, with your children, and just let us know like what you're doing this season. So we can jump right in, and as I like to do, just pass it over to you, Mama Kaya, and just ask you, what does this season mean for you, and what are you celebrating or practicing this season?
Hmm. Well, this season it's cold where I am. I'm in the Midwest in Chicago, so it's starting to get cold, and it's going to get even colder, and after the calendar new year. So this season is like an extension of preparation for the weather. So I start preparing in the autumn, and as soon as winter hits, it's like we are on lockdown. Like I like to get outside, but not nearly as much as obviously like the summertime. And so, yeah, we pretty much like winterize ourselves. We winterize our home, and kind of what that looks like is, changing the spreads to quilts and heavier blankets, or if we need extra heaters, bringing out the humidifiers, making
Mhm.
sure that we have a lot of like soups and stews and teas. And something new that I've actually started to do, I think we started this 2 years ago. We actually would juice a lot. So, like a lot of freshly squeezed juice. And we had a nice ritual for that in the morning. Like we get up, drink key lime water, and then have our freshly squeezed juice, and then we cook breakfast together. And that became like a running tradition. Like every morning, that's what we did, and took our supplements, and we did that as a family. So I think that's something that we're going to continue because we are preparing for the winter, but we're also thinking ahead for the spring and the summer and getting our bodies healed from anything that it needs to heal from, and also fortified so that when it's time to get out here and get active, we have all the energy, we are mineralized up, etc. So that those are like some of the practices that we do in the spirit of preparation. And I'm really just kind of like celebrating rest. Like, this is the time to just really rest and give myself permission to rest.
Yes, that's a big one
Yeah.
that like gets forgotten.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, what about you?
Ah, I always like to think that I'm working towards minimalism. It's
Mhm.
a desire. But I just realized, I just learned this language. Maximalist is like a word. Duh. If minimalist is, then maximalist must be, right? But I just really learned about that concept. And I realized that I'm like a minimal maximalist, if that makes sense. And so it feels good to be able to name that and claim that, mostly because I think for so long I was denying something that felt really true to me, which is like having lots of things, but like with specific functions. So not like having things that are in excess, but like I want everything that I need to function well. And so minimalism in the sense that I'm not like having access. So anywho, since I found that language to kind of describe how I'm experiencing myself right now, I've been pretty devoted to just taking off the layers of things that are not serving me, and not just like in a energetic or emotional way, but like very functional, so one of those examples, just to put it in context, is like I haven't been putting any products in my hair, and I never thought that that was something that I could do, because I was like, I mean, I have all of this hair, it's dry, it's curly, so I need something to like juice it up, or, give it a certain look. But when I think about my relationship to like my body and the products that I use or don't use, um, vanity, and just my relationship to a lot of like social standards and norms is shifting. I've always been in a state of shift, but I feel as I come into this winter, like more and more permission. Like I'm looking outside, all the trees are like dropping their leaves. They're looking dry. They're looking, very stick like. And, there isn't that lushness. And I recognize that, I deserve that too. Like I don't always have to be shining and glowing and having juicy dripping curls or whatever it is. Like I can just be. And so in an effort to just see what it can feel like to just have productless hair, I've committed to that for the whole winter. So it's like I've been slowing it down, and I'm just gonna see like where that takes me. I'm gonna see what happens. So in that spirit, I've been doing a lot of little things like that. And it really reminds me of winter because it's about letting go. It's like now we have the bare minimum, and there's still life, there's things happening in the darkness, but it's slowed down. It's taking off all of the extra things that require energy and effort so that you can just kind of go inward. And so yeah, I mean, I have a few other examples that we might get into, but mostly it's been about like taking off all of the extra layers. And for me, a lot of that has had to do like with my body. It has had to do with my diet. Um, Also, like the way that I'm relating to my children, it's like really shifting a lot because of their relationship to like other kids in their orbit. And so I'm realizing that I have to even strip that down. Like the way that I thought that I was going to relate to them, like was just about me, but like having to strip that down a little bit to say, like, what's actually here? Like, what's actually here? What are their desires? What is it that, wants to come through and emerge in them as people, but then also in relationship to me and, to other people in their lives, and not just my idea of like, this is how I'm going to parent and this is how I'm going to do this or that, but to really like just strip it down to the basics and see like what's there, because it's so easy to like cover up. it's so easy to just put layers and layers of things on because we always have, like the example with the hair products or makeup, or even the idea that like you have to like shower with soap every day, or just ways that we have constantly just put so many layers of like actual things and products or responsibilities upon ourselves. I feel like I'm going through that process with my kids too, of like, I don't have to have this prescriptive way of how I'm relating to them just to be, a responsive and kind and aware parent who's like enriching their lives. Like I can strip it down and see what this uniqueness is really about. So that's kind of what this winter season symbolizes for me. And then also a lot of my practices are related to that, just reflecting that significance. And while I was talking, it made me think about like kind of what was that juiciness that got us to even deciding on having this conversation, which was just thinking about this season at large. Like, yes, you might find, depending on what kind of communities you're a part of, people talking about this season in like a seasonal way, as in winter. But a lot of people might have a religious spin on this season, or they might have a holiday or consumerist spin on this season. And I realized that, in the spirit of minimizing, like I have not necessarily participated in any of the commercial aspects of this season, but even more so because now I have kids who are exposed to other kids, and they are like, people are doing this, they're decorating for this, they're buying stuff for this is how they're moving in the world. Like I'm having to revisit my connection or disconnection to some of this stuff and like really strip down to the basics of like, what is my reason for doing or not doing, what maybe everybody else is doing. So we've talked about it a little bit, and I really wanted to kind of see what others like are doing. And I I'm mostly curious about like Christmas. I ain't gonna lie. I'm just so curious about what people are doing and what they're saying to their children, specifically if you are not Christian. So, like, if you're Christian, I think I get the connection. Like, it seems pretty clear. But for people who are not Christian, but are very, I'll say, at least on the exterior, it seems like they're really connected to the Christmas holiday. I really like, I want to know more. I'm so curious just about how you're relating to the Christmas holiday and how you're sharing with their children. Because a friend of mine had Kavi and Alchemy with her and her kids, and they were in the back seat. And so she then texted me and was like, "Oh my gosh, this conversation is hilarious." Basically, her kids were talking about something about Christmas or gifts, or then my kids just like going in like, Christmas is not real, it's a lie. That's Santa's not giving you these gifts. It's your parents. So, you should thank your parents. And I'm just like, whoa, okay. I'm not trying to, shit on anybody else's parade here. But also, it was like that opportunity for pause of recognizing that, yes, I am, teaching them a particular value set. I do have an agenda with the things that I communicate to them. And so I'm just really curious about how other people are relating to that. So I don't know if you can share specifically. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but maybe folks would be interested to kind of share a little bit, or to hear you share a little bit about your journey with Christmas. And I'm just looking at Jeremy, just he just fell out. He looks
Tony
so
looks so cute. I just want to kiss him. But so okay, so while you were talking, it really made me think of two things. There's this running conversation on social media about, if your kids don't celebrate this, that's fine. But don't send them to school talking about, it ain't real and blah, blah. And it was just so funny hearing how Kavya and Alchemy were. And I know, I wish I was a fly on the window in that in that car because I know it was funny, and they be so passionate. So that's why I was just sitting here like, yeah, like how do you navigate that, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't want to control, other people's perspectives, but and some of us just don't want to lie. We don't want to lie to our kids. So it's like, well, kids are going to mingle with each other. And so prepare them. Or I've, I've had somebody say, um, tell them that Christmas is real. The spirit of Christmas is real. So like in their eyes, that's kind of what they were talking about, like the spirit of Christmas. So like Santa himself is not real. Like there's no such thing as a white, fat, old guy coming down your chimney. But the spirit of Christmas is people sharing gifts and mingling and communing together and showing gratitude during this period of time, and they are acting as Santa, I guess. That was like a really good explanation. I'm like, okay, I could vibe with that, because then that sounds like a nice little happy medium. But yeah, and another thing that came to my mind, I think about like the elders in my family. Now I do have some people who classify themselves as Christians and some who don't. They have their own rituals around their beliefs, and it's just really personal to them. Yeah. So it's, for instance, my grandmother, she was really big into Christmas when we were kids. But as time continued and we got older, she would say, y'all not kids no more. Y'all not getting no gifts. You 25 or you 27, you're not getting gifts anymore or whatever. And then when we started having kids, it was really like, nah, I'm doing stuff for the grandkids or the great grandkids. Yeah. But I noticed like every year that we got older, her celebration of Christmas got more and more minimal. And so now, like, she just has like a little tree, like a little 12-foot tree, sitting like on top of like a counter or something, and that's it. And I was just like, it's just funny to me on how like her reasons behind it. And I'm assuming, because I haven't asked, but I'm just assuming that it's Christmas and you were celebrating it because you were trying to like share that spirit with children. But we've all grown up, and all three of us, I believe, myself and my siblings, we don't celebrate Christmas anymore. So it's like it was over with after then. Yeah. So it was just kind of a very interesting perspective, I would say. Now, as far as me and my house, the reasons why I stopped personally celebrating Christmas came far before my children, and it was just because commercialism. I just wanted to be a little bit more practical. I noticed the trends specifically in my community, and it was like we spend a lot of money. We spend a lot of money. Not the fact that we don't have money, it's the fact that we just overspend on gifts and parties and celebrations. And we are a celebratory people, right? I love that about us. But sometimes we just find excuses to celebrate. So I'm just like, I don't need anybody to give me a reason to spend my money. Mm-hmm. If I want to spend my money, it's going to be because I wanted to, not because a seed was planted in my head and then I'm watching TV and I'm steady being programmed to go and spend my money more and more. Yeah. I'm like, nah, I like that. And I'm kind of like a little control freak. So I want to control me. I don't want nobody else controlling me. Right. So that was just kind of where that came from. And for a little bit, like we stopped celebrating Christmas in like 2012. And then we had kids. 2016, we became parents. And for the first couple of years of her life, we kind of like fell back into it and kind of got guilty back into it a little bit, even though that was the perfect opportunity because she didn't know anything.
She didn't know what she was missing.
Right. I'm just like, oh, so backwards. But learning lessons is cool. And so now she's 6. He's 1. He's really not going to know. Like, he'll see it. But the way that I kind of break it down to her is like, no, we don't celebrate Christmas. And I just leave it at that. And she's like, oh, okay. Just like we don't celebrate Hanukkah. We don't celebrate Kwanzaa. Like there are a lot of other holidays that we just don't celebrate.
Right.
And if she wants to know why, then I'll break it down to her. Now we're going to be talking about money and energy. That's going to be a whole homeschooling lesson in itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much like the gist of it or whatever for us.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when you think about it, like we don't really have a choice because it is so commercialized and commodified. So it's in our face, which is why, like, yeah, I don't want to ruin it for people, but also like, I don't get a choice. Like when I go into any store, like Christmas is all in my face. I'm not mad about it, but also it makes me feel a little better about like if my kids go into the scene and give other people's kids like a different narrative, like not in a way where it's like this is better than that, but like, hey, we don't have a choice. All of the shows that's coming on Netflix, all the movies, it's themed. And so they get exposure regardless of what we do in our house. So I'm constantly having to work with the contrast of it, whereas other people get to live in a world of like, this is what we do in our household. This is what is done in the world beyond me, especially if you're American. You think that whatever happens here is like happening everywhere. So it's like you get to have a world around you that reflects your inner worldview. And so I'm like, well, the fact that we don't get a choice, it makes me feel better in the fact that like my kids will share, whether they grapple with like wanting to participate because it seems fun. All they see is like the rituals and like the practices, the colors, the decorations, the gifts, mainly emphasis on the gifts. So they're interested in that. But when we start having conversations about like what is that, like what is the significance of the holiday and like what's your connection to it, there is none. And so they understand why as a family we don't. But if they want to go and celebrate with a friend and see what it'd be like, if they want to do it with their grandmother, like, you can explore, but that's not going to change what we do here. And then you can grow up and decide whatever you want. But I think that conversation lets them know that they do get to choose. Whereas a lot of people just like grow up and like, this is what we do. And even more importantly, we do this in our house, but it's completely like reflected outside of the house too. So it's like, this is just what people do. Like, this is what we do. So I'm like appreciative of like having the conversations with them. But sometimes it does feel like very constricting because we feel like we are, I'm not going to say like outcasted because it's not that anyone's actually doing that to us, but we feel like we are the few, and then there is the many. So I've been navigating that. And then something that you said about, we were talking about the connection. Oh, like spending your money where you're like, I don't need the permission of this holiday to like splurge out on my money. And oftentimes, that being a reason in and of itself, because of not just the spirit of Christmas or the holidays, but like the dopamine that is flowing when you get to spend money and get things that you maybe have been waiting all year or waiting for the sales or like speaking personally, getting bargains is a whole high for me. Like if I can go and get 5 things for the price of one thing, like that feels good. And I think that energy is all wrapped up into the holiday season. And so yeah, it feels good. And so it feels like a ritual that we want to participate in because it feels good. But to your point, there are other opportunities for us to do this. And I made a post about this on our page, like one being the postpartum period. How many people having children in your own family, your friends, your coworkers? If you want to get splurgy, it's a wonderful time. That's a really wonderful opportunity. But that aside, there's choice. Like we do have choice about how we get those good feelings.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to like shift the conversation into that, like that reason part. Um,
Mhm.
like what's the reason behind not even just the significance of like holidays, but what is the reason that we even allow ourselves to get like completely carried away and overtaken by things that we may not have any actual connection to? And it's because of that feeling. Like it feels good. Something about it feels good. The food, the
Yeah.
abundance, like having so much excess and extra, like it just elicits good feelings. And so if that is something that we're wanting and that we're desiring, I'm also really curious to hear from folks about like how are you bringing that good feeling into your day to day, or what other rituals and practices, independent of like this time that we're giving to while out, like what other times of year or what other seasons can offer opportunities for that good feeling. So I would really love to hear from folks, and you can put stuff in the comments or respond after if you're watching this after the fact. But that's something I've always just wanted to just kind of gather around because our generation, we're in a unique place where we're trying to keep the stuff that feels good, but we're trying to shed the things that don't. And a
Mhm.
part of being in that place is sometimes you're like, well, what space is for me, and then what practices are for me? Do I have to make them all up on my own? Is it something that you know, we can start doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really curious about that. And I don't know if you put any thought into that for you. I know you shared like seasonally some of the things that you do in your day to day, like the
Mhm.
cooking and getting the house ready,
Mhm.
um, which really resonate with me too. It's just like tending to that immediate part of the day, like that's going to be impacted by these little rituals. But are there any other maybe shared things that may be outside of your family that you either do or that you would like to call in as far as rituals for this season or beyond?
Mm. Outside of my family. So I kick it with my family. Like they're always like the priority, right? So I don't really think too far outside of family, unless it's like tribe.
Clarification. I meant like your nuclear family,
Oh, okay.
like the
Okay.
people living in your house. That's a better way. The people that you cohabitate with.
Right.
Outside of those people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So last year my family and I, particularly my generation of cousins, we decided that we were going to put a lot of intention into each other's birthdays because when you were kids, it was like your parents were the
Mhm.
facilitators of like gathering all the cousins and siblings and okay, it's so and so's birthday, we gotta go take him a gift or he's having a pizza party or whatever. But I feel like as we've gotten older, with life and responsibilities and our own children, we have just kind of like fell off. We just fell off from really, really like celebrating their existence. And that was like the intention behind it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's do this. And so what that looks like is every cousin picks their favorite color or just the color that they're feeling. And we all show up wearing that color for their
Mm.
birthday because well, most of us are grown. We're not like having like birthday parties at the club, VIP, you know. We're
Bottle
not
service.
we got kids. We're not doing that. But so most of the time we just want to be around each other and just like really just bond. So it just feels really good to get together and you can see the intention, you know.
Mhm.
And then we come together potluck style or whatever. And it's really about like intending on doing it. If everybody don't show up, everybody just don't show up. But we know that like, okay, so and so got a birthday this month, and then next month we got two birthdays, and so that's something that we kind of wrap our minds around and we put intention on, and that's all year long. We started that last year, and I think that that's gone pretty well. We've also come together for our grandmother, our late grandmother, her birthday. So like just to celebrate and honor her for being the previous matriarch
Mm-hmm.
who brought everybody in underneath her. And
Yeah.
so we just make sure we gather on that day, which is funny because she didn't celebrate birthdays. So I'm just like, ooh, I wonder if grandma is like, like why?
So
Right.
y'all can wait for me to just be up out the scene so you could do your thing.
So you can right, and you know I didn't like that, but I mean, the intention is just to keep her alive, keep the stories alive, and so
Yeah.
those are like um, some other ways that we kind of like gather and celebrate and put intention into just being together. And so I don't. That's part of the reason why I don't feel um, like I miss Christmas or miss these like holidays that give that feeling that you were talking about. I don't feel that because I'm learning to just create my own. Like I don't
Right.
need this specific one. I got my own, and so like
Love that.
the feeling that I have right now in this season is all about like family and bonding, and history is really, really big. Like that's a really big thing, particularly because my children are growing up. And when I was a child, I would sit and I would listen to like the elders, and they'd be talking about, oh, you remember this and you remember that, and you remember when so and so did X, Y, and Z. And I didn't know who these people were. You know, my grandma would be like, that was my favorite cousin, or we used to do this, and we used to go to quarter parties and blah, blah, blah. And I would just be like imagining. But now I think about it and I'm like, we're gonna grow up and we're gonna do the same thing. But what better impact would it have on my children and future generations if we actually had the photo album out and we had like descriptions and stories that were already like documented of who these people were, and we talked about them as if they were still here so that our children can have a connection, they can see it better through our lens of like what it
Mm,
was like. And
yeah.
so yeah, that's like a really big theme of mine. I'm like, I'm talking to my daughter a lot about like who her immediate ancestors are, who her previous ancestors were, whose mother was who. Like we're just kind of going through that, and I'm trying to create a connection and allow her to like empathize with how I felt about my grandma. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you know how you feel about Nana? That's how I felt about my grandma. Or like if I'm cooking or something, and she'd be like, wow, you know how to do that? You're the best cook ever. I'm like, grandma taught me, or Nana taught me.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
so then you could see like the connections being made in her mind, like, oh, okay, so your grandma or your Nana taught you, and my Nana's teaching me this. And so like that's the feeling that I have around this season. So it kind of like it kind of coincides with like I guess celebration around this holiday time, but the focus is our family and our community more so than like an imaginative, magical place or person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like, before, I'm not good at history, so I don't even want to try to like name whatever age when like commercialization kind of took over.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's how it was. Like people just celebrated with their families and their immediate community. And it wasn't this one big thing like governing the globe. It was like, no, we do this over here because we got these types of trees, or
Right.
we do this over here because we got these types of animals or whatever. So this is what we do, and we do it together. And so
Mm-hmm.
you have some of those similar elements for ritual, like food and smell and decor and
Yes.
prayer or song or whatever rituals, and really like what feelings we're trying to cultivate. Like what feelings are we cultivating here? Which is like such a good question to be asking. Like, yes, we want to feel good, but like what good feelings do we want? I
Mm-hmm.
think that can really inform like how we structure our rituals or our practices. So yeah, I really appreciate what you shared. And then especially like around like family. So for me, like in the family that I cohabitate with,
Mhm.
um, what we have been doing for the past year, no, I would say even more. It was before we moved, maybe 2 years. We have been securing Wednesdays as our family day. And that has been just so nourishing because it's in the middle of like your typical work week. So after the weekend, then it's like, okay, you got Monday, Tuesday, but we get this immediate break after. And then we just have 2 more days into the weekend. So that's kind of a response to participating in capitalism, so participating in the work week. I would say Kit more so than me. But then now that the kids like go to the learning center, like I had to let them know, like, I'm never gonna take you on a Wednesday. Like that's not gonna happen. However, it happens sometime, but I'm like, we taking Tuesday off. We're not going Monday. Like we have to have like this built-in. For me, it represents a feeling of rest and pause. Like when things are, happening all around you, a lot of stimulation. Something I've been coming up against a lot with them, just how they participate with this learning center is because it's play all day and friends, they want to go all the time. That was never like my goal for them because it requires a lot for me. Like I gotta be there, or I have to get all the snacks, or I gotta be on time because there's only like a 6 hour window that they're even open. So it's like a lot for me, and I don't feel very restful like when I'm trying to get them. It's like having a play date every single day, is what it feels like. Um, and that doesn't work well for me. So I've been having that personal struggle. So for this season, I've been inviting myself into taking 2 rest days in the week so that they can start to like hone that energy in, and that maybe we can reevaluate like what our relationship to like uh social stimulation, and what kind of feelings are we trying to get. Is it just that we want somebody to play with us? Because there are other ways that we can get that feeling, like we used to do a lot of different stuff, going to the forest preserve, and I'm like, we can do that. It doesn't get too cold here, we can still do that all year. So that's been something that I hold really near and dear. It's like taking that Wednesday. um Also, like getting familiar with, what do I want to call this? Like our primal connection to the earth. So I talked a little bit about this before, like just it's getting colder. So instead of trying to replicate a season that is not, by trying to like be way warmer than I need to be just for my comforts, just allowing myself to kind of be in those discomforts of, oh, I'm a little bit cold. I've been outside for 6 hours playing, and I'm a little cold, but it's okay, and having to kind of like shed those beliefs about like being in the cold is going to make you sick, or this is weakening you, as opposed to what I'm kind of learning now is like how this actually strengthening you to be outside and to be connected to the land in that way, and to be like giving your immune system an opportunity to like actually fortify you. So that's something that I've been doing personally. My kids have no problem with that, as most people's kids probably don't. Like just be outside, like whatever climate.
Nose running, no dripping.
No socks, no hat, and they're just like, this is great. This is great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like, I guess trying to catch up to where they're at. And then outside of my family that I'm living with, I want to bring back. We used to have a monthly gathering where we would share food and do some sort of activity.
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed that, but I felt like I was the one mainly holding coherence for it. So
Mhm.
then I was like in my head about it and like feeling salty. Cause I'm like, if y'all want this, then like, why am I the one constantly reminding that like this is going to happen, or like organizing the logistics? So then we fell off. But then I realized like my connection, the feeling that I was going for is to be with my family. Like so if that's a need that I have or a want that I have, and if it feels okay, like it would be one thing if I felt really taxed and I'm like, no, I cannot do it. But if
Mhm.
I don't feel taxed by just sending everybody a message saying, remember, we're gathering, bring your shit, then like can I suspend whatever stories or narratives that I'm spinning to get the feeling that I want? I want to gather. So that's something that I want to bring back. And at large, I would say community around me,
Mhm.
just like eating together.
Mhm.
I love when somebody just like, oh, you can stay for dinner, you can come over, you and your kids. And I'm like, oh, wow. Because so much happens over that meal. Like we might cook it together. We have conversations that we otherwise wouldn't have had if we didn't spend that time together, and our kids get to play. And I'm just realizing how something as simple as like sharing a meal or cooking a meal together, sharing it and cleaning up together, like just how transformative that is for the spirit. Like it's so nurturing even beyond the food. It's just the experience of being together. So just calling more of that in and saying
Mhm.
yes to more spontaneous invitations instead of being like, oh, that wasn't in my schedule, so can't do it. But like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna do this, but yeah, I'm gonna say yes to that and receive like what's present. Um, and also like getting together to sing, it was like one of my favorite things to do back in Chicago. Is like having a moon lodge or some sort of like sister circle or red tent, and then like also having a circle to just sing in and just be like, let's just be together and let's lift our voices. And
Mhm.
like something about that just feels so nourishing to me. So um I've been calling that in as well. And that also feels like, I mean, that's an anytime thing.
Yeah.
But it feels like a wonderful thing to do in the winter, as opposed to like, oh, let's, go for this hike, or let's, do this, let's go to the beach or go to
Mhm.
the mountains. It's like it's colder. So like actually let's make a fire. Let's sit around it. Let's
Yeah.
make some tea and have some soup and let's sing and just, so it feels fitting with this season, I would say.
I
So
love
that's what I'm calling in.
that. That just warms my spirit just listening to it. And I did see your stories. I saw your
Oh,
previous stories from the other day with you in the singer circle. I'm like, oh my God. And you know me, I love like the environment to look a certain way. So
it was so pretty.
I was looking at that like, dang, I need to catch a flight and just
It
be
was
there.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. That was like, I don't know, something about just being receptive to how energy moves. I was
Hmm.
invited to a song circle like a few weeks back. It was so good. I was like, this is what I've been missing. This right here. It was so good. The person who led it, she is like on a tour because she has an album. And so she taught songs from her album. And like, there were like a couple that were just like, whew, like these feel like medicine songs. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I cannot wait. I was like jazzed up, sing like recording voice notes, sending them to people. Like, got a song for you, sis. Got a song for you. Like jazzed up, singing it in the house. The kids know the songs by heart. They weren't at the circle. But yeah, just like I was in that energy so much. And then I got an invitation to facilitate at this gathering. And they
Yeah.
were like, can you do like a small workshop? And I was like, about what? Was my initial response. I'm like about what?
Right.
I was like, I don't know what I can do. A small one? I'm like, I'm long-winded. I need 2 hours. So I'm like, I don't really know what I can do. And then it hit me. Like, because as I'm thinking, I start singing and I was like, yes, of course. I could do a mini song circle. And it was amazing. It felt so good. And so I'm like, yep, thank you. Confirmation. This is what this winter will be about. Gathering and lifting our voices together.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I might have to add that ritual into my home. I mean, I'll be singing anyway, especially when you get in
The
the groove.
oldies.
Yeah, you know me, got my Earth, Wind, and Fire going, my Anita Baker. But I haven't done that recently. And typically, like, I have my speaker, I'm in the kitchen, and speaker is on blast, okay? And I'm just singing and dancing and washing dishes and cooking, but I don't know. I don't know how I got off track, like how I stopped doing that. But I think I did it again, like maybe a week or so ago, and I'm like, man. And I was singing Mary J. Blige, so it wasn't really old, but it reminded me of the '90s and like how I felt growing up, like riding in the back seat and just it was just I was just in the nostalgic period. And you know what? It probably was the feel I was replicating the feeling of like being around family because,
Yeah.
me and my cousins would get together and, we pretend, play house and pretend like we were grown and like, I gotta go to work, and we get in our grandma car and pretend like we driving or something or whatever, and we play Mary J. Blige. We was really pretending like we were our moms, really, right? That's what we just replicate our mothers. And I think, I knew I was gonna see my family like that upcoming week because it was like Thanksgiving time. So I knew I was gonna see them. And so that's kind of what I was doing. But that feeling that I had, it felt really, really good. And I can't sing, but it didn't matter. It
We
didn't
all
matter.
can.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the encouragement. But yeah, and then I can see my daughter. She's like right behind me. She's watching me, and now she acts and requests certain songs. So maybe we do need to add singing back into our rituals, like how our moms used to do growing up on Saturday mornings, blasting the oldies. Like, come on, get up, we cleaning,
Yeah.
and like I can see her now. Like I was like, okay, you gotta clean your room. She's like, I need some music, and I'm like, you know what, you right,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
So,
Yes, that makes a difference for bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
Music is a part of like every ritual, low key. Like whether we added it or not, like it can be woven in.
Yeah.
Like bedtime music, waking up music, cleaning, just like a moment for play, and just if you want to sing or not sing, if you want to dance, if you want to calm down, you want to meditate, you want to relax, it just seems so essential. In the car, now we're driving, just kind of passing the time. Such a wonderful, wonderful time, at least for me and my kids, to like just play songs and sing them and belt them out. So yeah, I think that the memories that we attach to the songs, the feelings they invoke in us, like those songs that you sing and then like your voice starts cracking because you're about to cry. And you're like, oh, I didn't even know that I needed to cry. And I didn't know that this song meant anything to me.
Right.
But it's sometimes just giving yourself that opportunity to utter those words in that frequency, hear your voice. And then it's like, okay, yes, like I'm listening. It's like a beautiful way to just kind of decolonize the body, to remember that we used to, whether we could sing or whether we could super dance, it's like we just all did it. We all moved our bodies. We all lifted our voices. So yeah, I'm really happy to like have that be a part of this season. And I'm grateful that you're gonna reintroduce it back into your flow with your fam too.
Yeah. Yes. For sure.
Well, we're hitting at 2:00 here my time.
Yep.
We really wanted to practice another ritual of timeliness here. So if there's anything that anybody wants to add as far as invitations into practice or ritual, or just connecting with your reasons for what it is that you're doing this season, or reasons for not doing certain things, feel free to tap in, connect with us. We're always happy to receive any comments, DMs, emails. You can visit our website, the Tribe Learning Coop, the Tribe Coop, might be the Tribe Coop,
Mhm.
and you can sign up for our mailing list, and there you'll be able to get emails that has announcements about what we're up to, what we're doing, whether that be in the virtual realm or if that be what's happening respectively in Charlotte or in Chicago. So feel free to tap in with us. We would love to connect with you this season. We will reconvene and figure out what our next tribe chat will be and when it will be. But this felt like an appropriate time to simmer down a little bit and take it easy. So this will be our last one of the calendar year. And we're looking forward to staying connected.
Yes, for sure. And I just want to give, it was one more thing that just came to my mind. And I feel like, you know what, let me just share it. And so maybe you guys can, add this into your seasonal ritual. The art of touch. It's
Mm.
cold. We tend to want to stay in bed a little bit longer and like snuggle. I'm encouraging everybody to snuggle up. Take the moments that you have and just get together. Physically touch someone else. If it's your kids, if it's your partner, siblings, mother, father, like that is medicine within itself. We don't know how much our bodies really need it until you get it. Like hug somebody a little bit longer, 10, 20 seconds. Hug them till it's awkward. Hug them till it's awkward. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like in your mind, it might feel like, but your body is like, yes, I needed to be touched, or just
Yeah.
invite your kids into your bed early in the morning when it's still kind of cold and the heater hasn't kicked on and just snuggle up because I think that this is something that, our bodies are needed. And this is the perfect time. In the summertime, it's too hot for all of that. But this, this winter, like this gives us the permission, like
Yes.
telling us that's what we need. So just try
Yes.
it.
Yes. Thank you for adding that in. I've been feeling that personally, especially after I have a good meal. I'd be like, I just want to cuddle. So yeah, absolutely. And I will second that long, awkward hug. I read before that it takes at least 20 minutes for oxytocin to release when you hug somebody. So even if it feels awkward, smell their hair. That's what I do. People smell my hair and I smell theirs, and we just hug for a while and we just like rub each other's back and comment on like, you smell like this. You smell it back and forth until that time of like, yeah, it's been a good amount of time. I know the oxytocin is flowing, and then release. It definitely makes a difference.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us this lovely Tuesday afternoon. I hope the rest of your week goes amazing. And I guess that's it.
That'll be it. Till next time. Peace, everybody.
Peace.